Okay, fine. In a previous class, we discussed about the identifiers, and in this class, we are going to discuss about the data types. So, what are the different data types that Java is having? And first, we will discuss about what is data type and why we need the data type. Right. So, data type is nothing but to specify the different sizes and values that can be stored in the variable. So we have basically two different types of data types available in Java, and one is a primitive data types and another one is non-primitive data types. So the primitive data types are like Boolean, character, byte, short, int, long, float, and double. Total 8 primitive character, and non-primitive characters are like predefined classes that is available in Java. For example, string and arrays. These all are called the non-primitive data types. Let me define one more time what is data type. So data type specify the different sizes and values that can be stored in the variable, right? So let me come back to the real time scenario and we will discuss here what is the variable while declaring what is the variable and how, what is the two different types of variable that Java is having. So here in previous class, if you remember, I have defined one syntax, that is data type variable equals to constant. In earlier class, we discussed this syntax. Here, what we are trying to discuss in today's class, data type. So data type is a specific thing actually. So this is allowing us to understand while we wanted to perform any operation, what data type we should use and why we should use the specific data type that we have to discuss. Let me tell you one simple scenario to give the overview and background background why they have introduced the data type. So for example, here I'm trying to declare int x equals to 10 and int y equals to 20. So here there is a possibility we can do the addition operation. You can able to perform the addition operation and you can calculate x plus y value that will be printing as x plus y 10 plus 20 equals to 30. But people like me, what they will do, they will try to print Nagesh plus 20. So I will define x as, so think we don't have the data types present. They're giving x as Nagesh and y as 20, and they're printing x plus y. So this is the scenario where we don't have the data type. This is a variable and this is the constant. So x value is Nagesh and y value is 20. So is this possible to calculate Nagesh plus 20? This is impossible because you cannot do the addition operation alphabets and numerics, combination of alphabets and numerics. That is not possible in maths itself. So then how system will understand? So we have to set certain rule that then only you can assign the specific value, like that we are setting the certain rule. For example, here let me give you an example. I wanted to become an engineer. Okay, so this is the goal, but I wanted to execute Java program in this scenario. Just consider that like that. But I haven't complete my 10th and 12th, and I wanted to complete my BTech. So is that possible? It is not possible. There is a rule that you have to complete your 12th and you have to write an MCET exam and you have to clear the MCET exam, get the engineering seat and complete the BTech. So this is kind of instructions that they have set to complete your engineering. right? Likewise, Java is having set of reserved words. So int, and these all are 8 primitive data types. Those are called the reserved words. Like, so they having the capability to understand the given value, whatever the value that is giving, that can be allocated to x or not. Here you are declaring int x equals to 10 and you are writing Nagesh. So whatever the predefined implementation they have written for an int, that will call internally and that will tell that boss, you have to assign x value as an integer. Instead of integer, you are assigning Nagesh. That is not possible. You have to convert. Is my system is telling my Mac machine having that set of rules? No, I don't have. Is that JDK having set of rules? No. Is that IntelliJ having set of rules? No. Who is having them? JRE. JRE having the set of rules to identify. So whatever the values that you are giving and specify, and it will define the length or size. So that can be done by the data type. So who will take care? Basically, data type will take care. Okay. So here, boss, you have declared x equals to 10. That is possible because I am an integer. Variable x is saying I am an integer. Yeah, you can give me any of the integer number. I can hold it. But you don't give me any of the string values, alphabets, or special character, because my data type is telling me to store only integer value, because my data type is integer. So int is restricting x to assign only integer value. You cannot assign any other value. So that is what data type is doing. That is the importance of data type. Here there is a kind of restrictions that you are providing to the variable. Boss, this is the size and this is the value that you have to assign. You cannot assign more than that. So this is an integer. Like this I have declared. So there is a limit. So this should be this much of limit, size and kind of value that I'm assigning. Is that alphabet, is that numeric? So there will be certain size will be there. So when you declare a data type, so that is restricting specific value to get or allocated with this value. Apart from this value, if they are trying to assign any other value, you don't accept it, because if you take also in going forward, we cannot do from our end. So that is helpless. Instead of that, you can tell directly you cannot access this value. That's why here clearly telling, here you have to define the variable. So while defining the variable, you have to define the data type, and the data type is telling that pause, that is not possible, because they have defined a set of rules for all the primitive data types that is present, and they will be only allowing that data to assign to any of the variables. So this is called a data type. Hope you understood about what is the data type. So there is different types of data types that we have. So we will discuss in detail what are the different data types that is having and what kind of values that will be allowing. So if you take in this slide, you have a boolean and a character and a byte and a short and int and a long and a float and a double. So these are the different primitive data types was there. So we will try to understand when to use a boolean and when to use the character, when to use the byte, when to use the stort. So that we have to understand. So these primitive data types, okay, data type is nothing but, okay, so this is specifying me to give the specific size of and a specific value that can be stored with the variable. So data type is telling me that. But what are the different types of data types I am having, and what is the way to assign the values to the specific data types? We'll start with the boolean. Here one thing you have to remember is always primitive data types, all letters, whatever the letters that is present, lowercase, no uppercase. Okay, now boolean x equals to 10 I am declaring. So it is not allowed, because when you define this as a boolean, it will allow either true or false. Only true or false you can assign. So this is the boolean data type. In your program, for any of the variable, if you wanted to assign true or false, then you have to use the boolean data type. Hope you are clear with what is boolean. In your project, if you wanted to assign true or false for any of the variable, then you can define as a boolean, right? So that is boolean. Next, int. So if you wanted to define a numeric number, you can go with the integer. If you wanted to define an integer number, you can go with the int. And character. If you wanted to define any of the character, you can go with char. This can be alphabet, this can be a number, anything. Single character. Character is nothing but it should be having the single quote, and it can be alphabet or numeric, right? This is the char. This type of data, if you wanted to define and if you wanted to use in your Java program, you can use the char. Next, long. So this is an integer. You can define the long length integers. So long length integers cannot be assigned to integers. That's why it will be an integer, but if you're having the long length and long size, then you have to go with the long. Okay, next, float. So when you have the decimal points, we will go with the float. Float we can use to define the decimal values. When you wanted to define decimal values, we can go with the float. Double. So if you wanted to consider more than 2 decimal points, then you have to use the double. So in your operation, it is mandatory to get after the decimal point more than 2 values if you wanted to access. If you wanted that much accurate, when you will go with the double. I will explain in detail actually, no worries. 6 is done, and what else? Int and float and char and boolean and float, long and short. Short s equals to, so it is also kind of integer whose is not applicable to give integer. So it is less number, not number count. Actually, this is kind of a size of that specific number. So if that is a less than integer, then you have to go with the short, right? So int, char, long, short, and byte. So byte can be like 248. So this should be like a like kind of a memory that we are providing. So this is the different kind of data types that is available. So based upon your requirement, on which case, which data type that you have to use, you have to understand and you have to assign these values. So these are the different data types, and those are the primitive data types that is present in the Java. And let me come back to one scenario. Why we have a double and float? Why can't we go with some specific one? For example, here system dot out dot println And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to print this value. Okay, so let me run and let me show you. So here, if you see system.out.println, I'm printing 3/2 and it is giving 1. I'm just curious why it is 1. It should be 1.5 or something, 1.3.3 something. It should be like that. But why it is giving? So let me write something like this. Float d equals to 3 or something, and float h equals to something like this. And what I'm trying to do here, suppose this is f, no, p. Now what I'm writing, p by h. Run as Java application. And if you see the answer, you can see 1.5. It gave me accurate one. The reason because I defined them as a float. So if I wanted to consider accurate value, then I can go with the float. So if I give the double, you can see what will happen. So now it should be very clear. That's why I intentionally wanted to execute and show you. Here it is the thing. For example, let me take 10/3 and let me print. Here you can see more than 2 decimal points. Okay, so more than 2 decimal points, if you wanted to consider, then you have to go with a double. And if I'm declaring same as a float, let's see what will happen. So it is not that much accurate. Somewhere we have missed actually. All the decimal points are not considered. So hope you understood the difference. So when to apply which one. So float is also giving the decimal point and double is also giving the decimal point, but double is more accurately giving the decimal points. So based upon your requirement, what kind of requirement, what kind of output you want, so you have to use the respective data type so that you will get the more accurate. So you should be confident with which data type I have to select to implement my logic, right? These are the primitive data types. Coming back to non-primitive data types, those are predefined classes which is present in the Java. Best example for non-primitive data type is string. Okay, so non-primitive data types we can declare in 2 different ways. One is the literal way and another one is using the new keyword. We will discuss in detail in further classes. Actually, while discussing about the string class, we will define these all the things. String, still I wanted to show you what kind of declarations that present, right? So S1 and S2, these are the variables, and the data type of these specific variables are strings. So this should be alphanumeric, whatever it may be, and it should be double quoted value. And you can declare these variables using 2 different ways. One is the literal approach and another one is using the new keyword. This is the one example, and another one is arrays you can declare. So in arrays class we will declare and they will show, and these are the different ways that we have to declare. If for example array, we will declare an array like this. So array, sorry. So let me declare an array, int array. equals to like this, I can declare. Okay, this is an integer array. Okay, or else you can declare in a different way. Somewhere we have given the same value. Okay, so this is the different way we can declare it. Okay, so that we can discuss in a next class. So this is how we will declare basically. So these are called non-primitive data types. Clear? Any questions?